subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon. It's quick, easy, and it helps us create more content for you. My husband found out I was cheating when he saw me step out of a car at 3 in the morning without my underwear. I know, it sounds like a scene from a cheap movie, but it wasn't. It was real life, my real life. And that was the exact moment everything shattered. We were coming back from a private party. Ricardo, the other man, and me. It had been a long night of drinks, soft music, knowing glances, and that tension that builds for weeks before it finally breaks. I stumbled out of the car, still buzzed and laughing at nothing, when I spotted him. Marcelo stood in the doorway, his face as pale as if he'd witnessed a crash on Paulista Avenue. No words, just his eyes locked on my legs, my wrinkled dress, and the back seat where he knew exactly what had happened. I felt the emptiness, not just between my legs, but between us. The silence was so brutal that even the car engine seemed to hush, refusing to bear witness any longer. Do you want to know how I got to that point? How I went from being a married woman, a mother with a somewhat stable routine, to a cheater in the dead of night? Keep listening, because there's no excuse, only reasons. And sometimes, reasons are worse than apologies. When Marcelo saw me that night, he didn't react as I expected. No shouting, no confrontation, no insults. He just stared, lips pressed tight, arms crossed, then turned his back and walked up the stairs without a word. He didn't wait to see if I followed or confirm what was obvious. By the time I reached our apartment, the door was ajar. The hallway was silent, but every light was on. I stepped inside slowly, bracing for an ambush or a dramatic scene, but all I heard was my own uneven breathing. I went straight to the bathroom, closed the door, and stared at myself in the mirror. I knew that night had changed everything. I splashed cold water on my face and took a deep breath. I didn't regret it, at least not then. What worried me most was Marcelo's calm, the quiet exhaustion of someone no longer hurt, just done. The next morning I woke before him, made coffee out of habit, but didn't bring him any. I sat in the kitchen, cup in hand, staring out the window. I heard him stir in the bedroom, shower, dress, all in silence. When he finally appeared, he looked at me like a stranger. He poured his coffee without a word and sat across from me. "Who is he?" That was all he said. No why, no how long, just who, as if he needed to name the enemy before deciding his next move. "Ricardo," I replied. No point in lying. He nodded once, eyes fixed on his cup. "How long?" "A few weeks," I lied. It was almost 3 months, but if he was going to hate me, let it be for less. "Did you sleep with him?" The question hit like a knife. I could have downplayed it, said it was just emotional, nothing physical, but I'd crossed that line, so I didn't. "Yes." He said nothing, stood up, and locked himself in the bathroom for over an hour. I stayed seated, trying not to think about what I'd done, what came next, or if our daughter Bia would sense something was wrong. I heard the shower run again, longer this time, as if he were trying to wash it all away. When he emerged, his eyes were red, not from tears. Marcelo doesn't cry, but from a contained fury that scared me more than any outburst. "Did you bring him here?" "No," I answered truthfully. Ricardo had never set foot in our home. Does Bia know him? No. Do you plan to keep seeing him? I didn't know how to respond. The truth would hurt him. A lie would too. I don't know. He looked at me with a mix of disappointment and contempt that rooted me in my chair. Then he grabbed a backpack, packed some things, and left without a word. No threats, no slammed door, just gone. That was the real discovery. He didn't just learn I'd betrayed him. He realized he no longer cared to fight for me. No pleas, no scenes, just a cold end. And that hurt more than if he'd screamed or thrown me out. I spent the rest of the day like a robot, not working, not calling anyone. When Bia got home from school, I put on my best face and made her snack as usual. She noticed something, I could tell, but didn't ask. That night, she hugged me tighter before bed, as if she sensed the fracture. I swallowed my tears because crying wouldn't undo what I'd done. The next day, Marcelo didn't return. No messages, no calls. He showed up that evening just to grab more clothes. I was in the kitchen when he walked in, didn't even glance at me, went straight to the closet, packed a bag, and headed for the door. Before he left, he paused. Don't bother calling me. We'll only talk about Bia, and he was gone. That was the true revelation, not catching me that night, but realizing the woman he'd shared his life with was gone, replaced by someone else. Not better or worse, just different. And he had no interest in knowing her. It wasn't until the fourth day that Marcelo decided to talk. He'd been staying at his brother's. I learned from Bia, since he hadn't said a word to me. That evening, around 7:30, as I was finishing dinner for Bia, he walked in with a firm step, his face like stone. He asked to talk in the living room. Bia was watching cartoons on her tablet, so I nodded and followed. He sat on the couch without removing his jacket, arms crossed, looking at me like an intruder. I need to know what the hell happened to you, he started, his voice steady but tense, cutting through me. I sat across from him, gripping my hands to stop them from shaking. I don't know what to say, I whispered. Don't give me that, Carla. You know damn well. I just want to hear it from you. Why? What was missing? What did he do that I didn't? What pushed you to wreck everything? I swallowed hard. I'd tried to prepare answers in my head, but nothing sounded right. It wasn't planned. It started as harmless messages, just talking. And how do you go from messages to sleeping in a car? He cut in, his eyes blazing with restrained anger. It wasn't that simple. It built up. I felt like I needed something more, something that wasn't here anymore. I can't explain it. Try, because I've had bad days at work too. Come home to no one looking at me, and I didn't go sleeping around. You think you're the only one who's felt empty? His voice trembled, not with emotion, but exhaustion from holding it all in. I'm not saying it's your fault, I tried, but he waved me off. Of course not. Because this is all on you. No one pushed you. It's your decision. You chose to disrespect what we had, knowing it would destroy me, and you did it anyway. I had no response, just sat there with a lump in my throat, feeling I had no right to defend myself. He lowered his gaze, breathed deeply, and rubbed his forehead. I don't know how we go on from this. It hurts to even look at you. I don't want Bia to see us as enemies, but I can't pretend either. I won't let this ruin everything. It's too late. You've already ruined it, he said, his voice cracking for a moment. Though he didn't cry. I didn't do it to hurt you. It wasn't planned. Well, congratulations, Carla, because you did it anyway. You've hurt me more than I thought possible. He stood, walked to the door, hand on the frame, back to me. I'm not sure I want to fix this. I don't know what I'll do yet, but for now, keep it between us. Bia doesn't need to know. You handle the school runs, and when I'm here, I'll act normal with her. Not a word in front of her. Got it? Got it. And stay away from him. No messages, no calls, no contact. If I find out you're still seeing him, you'll be alone, and I'll fight for Bia. I have enough proof to make sure a judge listens. I nodded. Not the time to argue. All I had left was silence, and it stretched through the rest of the night. Marcelo wasn't one for dramatics, but he wasn't naive. When he said he didn't want me near Ricardo, he meant it. For the next 2 weeks, he played the perfect father, polite, composed, but he wasn't the man I'd married. Every move was calculated. In front of Bia, he was fine, but alone. His silence was a weapon, each unspoken word a warning. I didn't push for more talks or explanations. I knew anything I said would only make it worse. What I didn't realize was that Marcelo had no intention of settling for my regret. He was planning something smarter than screams or fights. One morning, while I was still in bed, he took Bia to school as promised. It was a Friday. He returned mid-morning, sat at the computer for nearly an hour, printed something, and left without a glance. I felt something shifting, but I didn't know what. That afternoon, he came back, locked himself in his office until dinner. Over the weekend, he spent hours on his phone, typing away, not hiding it because he didn't care. On Monday, he made it clear. I'm taking Bia this week, he said over breakfast, his tone flat, like commenting on the weather. Bia was distracted with her tablet, so he kept it casual. Why? Because I want to. We won't discuss it here. 2 days later, I got an email from an unknown address. The subject, Ricardo. I opened it without thinking. It was a shared folder full of screenshots of our conversations, photos of our meetings, even a short video of us kissing on a bar balcony. The note read, if you keep seeing him, all this goes to his workplace and Bia's school. I froze. Marcelo hadn't just gathered evidence. He'd built something meticulous, cruel, and effective. He didn't need to yell or insult me. This was enough to turn my world upside down. I called him immediately. He answered on the second ring. What the hell is this? Exactly what it looks like, he replied calmly. And if you contact him again, his family, his bosses, his girlfriend, if he has one, even the school parents group will know. Your choice. Are you sick? No, Carla. I'm furious and methodical. You thought you could hurt me and I'd just take it? You were wrong. He hung up. I sat on the kitchen floor, numb, staring into nothing. Tears or rage building inside, but nothing came out. Marcelo was making it clear. He wasn't going to fight for me, but he wouldn't let me go without consequences either. He didn't want physical revenge or public destruction. He just wanted me to feel exactly what he had felt: powerlessness, humiliation, fear, and he was succeeding. The fact that he did it all in silence, with such surgical precision, was the worst part. That night, when he came back with Bia, he acted as if nothing had happened. He asked about her day, helped with her homework, read her a story. I remained silent, unsure how to move, uncertain whether I was free or trapped in a web with no escape. The next day, before he left for work, he left a printed sheet of paper on the table. It was a list. At the top, it read, "Conditions for continuing to live under the same roof." I read each point with my heart in my throat. No dates, no social media, no new phone passwords, permission to review my email, and the worst of all, zero contact with Ricardo, neither in person nor by electronic means. Any breach, and the folder would be sent without warning. I don't know if it was revenge or simply a way to maintain control, but it worked. I didn't write to Ricardo again. I blocked him everywhere. I deleted everything, not because I wanted to, but because I was afraid. Marcelo had turned me into a prisoner of my own actions. And the worst part was knowing that while I silently begged for forgiveness every night, he had already started living a different life. I had returned everything he ever gave me, but not in the way he expected. And now, it was he who decided what it would cost me to stay. There was no set date for our last conversation, just a moment when the silence ceased to be useful. 3 weeks had passed since Marcelo imposed his conditions. I had followed every one of them, not out of conviction, but because I knew any slip-up would be a weapon used directly against me. I moved carefully around the house, avoided his gaze, offered no opinions unless strictly necessary, and became almost invisible so as not to provoke a reaction. He didn't say much, but he watched everything. That night, however, was different. Bia was staying over at her cousin's, and for the first time in a long time, we were alone in the house, with no excuses to avoid each other. I had dinner before him, cleaned everything up, and locked myself in the bedroom. After 10 minutes, I heard him open the door and come in. He walked to the closet, took off his jacket, sat on the edge of the bed, and spoke without looking at me. "I'm requesting a transfer at work," he said, his voice neutral, almost professional. "They're sending me to Brasilia in September. The contract is for 3 years." I listened, not knowing if that meant he was going alone or if he expected us to follow. I sat up slowly, unsure what expression to wear. "And Bia will be with me on alternating weeks. I'm not taking her mother away from her, but I won't let her grow up watching this. As for you, do whatever you want. You can stay here, find another place, move in with your parents. I'm no longer interested in what you do with your life," and it was hard to swallow. Not because I didn't already know, but because hearing it aloud was a blow more concrete than anything that had come before. "Don't you want to fix this?" I asked, the words a struggle. "No," he answered without hesitation. "I want to move on with my life without having to look at someone who chose another man before talking to me. There's no fixing this. And don't tell me it was a mistake. It was a choice, and nothing just got in the way. I did everything you asked. I didn't talk to him. I didn't go out. I didn't do anything." "Exactly. You did nothing. You stayed here silent, following conditions as if it were a punishment. You did nothing for me, only out of fear. And what did you want me to do?" "I wanted you to be honest from the beginning, not to hide like a teenager. To look me in the face and say, 'I don't want to be with you anymore.' That's it. Just that. But you preferred to screw everything up without a word." He stood up and walked to the door, but stopped before leaving. "Look, Carla, I don't hate you. And that's the most fucked up part. Because if I hated you, this would be easier. But I feel nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just a kind of void that I have no intention of filling with you. We can at least talk like people, if only for Bia's sake. For Bia, I will be polite. I will be present. I'll talk to you as much as necessary. But us no longer exists. You killed it the night you came back laughing in that car, like you were someone else. I didn't move. I just sat on the bed, unable to look away. He left without closing the door. In the hallway, I heard him take something from the hall closet, an envelope. He came back into the room and left it on the nightstand. These are the divorce papers. There's no rush, but when you're ready, we'll sign them. Is this what you want? It's what I need. And if I say I want to try, I wouldn't believe you. He waited another second, as if expecting me to say something, but I said nothing. The words wouldn't come. He nodded as if to himself. The divorce was signed on a Monday afternoon, without ceremony, without a final argument, without even an attempt at reconciliation. Marcelo was punctual. He arrived with the folder under his arm, greeted the lawyer, signed the papers without reading them. He already knew them by heart, and stood up from the chair without looking at me. I signed after him. My hands were shaking, not from nerves, but from the contained rage I felt at myself for letting everything end this way. When we left the office, he walked a few feet ahead of me. He didn't say goodbye, didn't turn around, made no gesture at all. He just got in his car and drove away. I stood on the sidewalk, watching him disappear. I thought about sending a message, something brief, something to close what we never even knew how to properly open. But I didn't. I knew any word would be ignored. Bia didn't ask much. She just wanted to know if we were moving, if Daddy would live far away, if she could still go to the same school. I answered everything as naturally as possible, as if these decisions were made for practical reasons and not because of the emotional ruins my actions had left behind. Marcelo was firm, but fair with her. He treated her as he always had, with affection, with attention, with that calm way he had of explaining the world without embellishments. I don't know if one day she'll forgive me for what happened, but for now, at least she doesn't look at me with contempt. She hugs me in the morning and says, "I love you," and that's enough for me. Getting back to a routine without Marcelo was easier than I imagined. Not because I didn't miss him, but because my mind had already disconnected from him long before, even if I hadn't realized it. What was truly difficult was accepting there would be no second chance, that this wasn't a crisis that could be solved with therapy or time. This time, there was a clear decision, a line drawn that neither of us was willing to cross again. I was forced to face what I had done from an uncomfortable place, without the protection of regret that serves as a shield. Because no, I didn't regret it completely. I didn't regret feeling something different, seeking something I no longer had. What hurt was the way I did it, the secrecy, the denial of the obvious for so long, the unnecessary harm. I learned that betrayal isn't just the act itself, but everything that surrounds it, the daily lies, the double life, the constant fear of being discovered, the cowardice of not facing things when there was still time. Ricardo disappeared from my life almost at the same time as Marcelo. There was no confrontation, no farewell. I simply stopped responding. I deleted his number, erased every digital trace, not because I wanted to save anything with Marcelo, but because I understood that Ricardo was nothing more than an escape valve, a cheap escape. He didn't insist either. I suppose he realized that for me, he was never a possible destination, just a temporary distraction. Today, I don't even know if he's still in the city, and I don't care. I don't want to know. My closest friends asked what had happened. Some knew, others suspected. I wasn't completely honest with any of them. I just said that Marcelo and I had grown distant, that the relationship had become unsustainable, that we had taken different paths. Only one of them, Juliana, told me what I didn't want to hear. What you did can't be fixed, but at least now you don't have to pretend anymore. I didn't say it to her then, but she was right. Living a lie is far more exhausting than facing the consequences of your decisions. It's harder to look at your daughter and know you're the one who broke that stability, but it's also more honest. I'm learning to live with it. I've started working more hours. I enrolled in a photography course on Tuesday afternoons, and on the weekends when Bia is with Marcelo, I try not to stay cooped up at home. Sometimes I go out alone for a drink, to read in a cafe, to watch people walk by, knowing nothing about me. Other times, I just stay on the couch and watch shows without thinking too much. I'm not waiting for someone new to appear. I'm not interested. Not right now. Maybe later, or maybe never. I don't know. What I do know is that if I'm ever with someone again, it will be from a different place. Not from need, nor emptiness, nor the fear of losing what no longer exists. It will be with everything clear from the start, without betrayals, without lies, without cowardice disguised as silence. This story doesn't have a happy or tragic ending. It just has a closing. And sometimes that's the most you can ask for.